So Boris Johnson responded to the images, the scenes that took place in Bournemouth where people crowded onto the beaches due to the warm weather. So let's hear what he had to say.
Well, let me be very clear about the scenes in Bournemouth. I think it's very important for people to understand that if you look at what's happening elsewhere in the world, where people have been coming out of lockdown, I'm afraid what you're also seeing is people taking too many liberties with the guidance, mingling too much, not observing social distance. So some parts of the world, I won't name them, but you've got spikes, really serious spikes.
Okay, but Boris, there's a big difference between what's happening in other countries and what's happening in England in particular. In those countries, they have ended their lockdown because they have sufficiently suppressed new cases and deaths. While in England, that's not the case. But at the same time, you're planning to leave the lockdown pretty much on the 4th of July. So you can't compare what's happening in, for example, Germany and what's happening in England, because they're completely different. Or you can't compare what's happening in England with what's happening in Italy. In Italy, in Germany, in Spain, they have suppressed new infections. They have suppressed the number of deaths to a sufficient level that they believe is correct to end the lockdown. Now, those numbers were below 100, for example, 100 deaths per day, while in the UK, the number of new deaths per day is over 100, but you're still planning to leave the lockdown.
In the incidence of the disease. So it's crucial that people understand that on July the 4th, we get this right. And we do this in a balanced way, and we recognise the risks. And so I say to everyone...
So once again, I don't understand the need to stand by the 4th of July. If people are not respecting the rules, it means that the 4th of July should not be something that you set in stone. It should be movable. Our plan was the 4th of July. People have not respected social distancing. People have not respected the rules up to this stage. Then the solution should be that you move the date. Because if the public aren't on board, then what's the point in having an arbitrary date?
Everybody, you know, you may think that you're not going to get it and you're immortal and invincible and so on. And very likely that's true, particularly if you're a young person. But the bug you carry can kill elderly people.
Why is Boris Johnson playing the good cop here? Trying to beg the public, please don't go out onto the beaches. Please respect the rules. Please don't spread the virus to elderly people. You need a much harder approach. People have broken the rules. If I were the Prime Minister, I would close the beaches. The beaches are closed from tomorrow, from today even. People have not respected the rules. The scenes that we saw in Bournemouth are unacceptable. The beaches from now on are closed indefinitely. Why can't you do that? You have the power to do that. Instead, Boris Johnson seems to be avoiding this. Now, I think it could be for two possible reasons. One is that he's afraid to piss off the voters, because if he closes the beaches, he'll become unpopular. And perhaps the other reason is because people will turn around and say, you're a hypocrite, because your chief advisor broke the rules and he didn't get punished. He broke the rules in much more serious way than we did, and he's much more important as a member of the government than we are, and he didn't get punished. So by setting this precedent, Boris Johnson has more or less cut off his own legs.
Particularly, it is still dangerous. The virus is still out there. To beat this thing, we have to stay alert and do this in a balanced way.
But there are a number of different problems here. I think messaging is a problem. The idea that, well, we just have to end the lockdown on this arbitrary date of the 4th of July. Now, they say it's because the data they have points in that direction, that it's a milestone and we have suppressed the virus sufficiently to get to this milestone. But if if people are flooding back to beaches, if people are not respecting social distancing, then what's the point in having this arbitrary date? That it will no longer be a valid date because we are going to see a spike in the new cases. But once again, I think Boris Johnson should come down much harder on the rules. Say we're closing the beaches, people have broken the rules, we have to close the beaches. But once again, I fear that it's either because he's afraid of pissing off voters or he'll be called a hypocrite because of the shenanigans of Dominic Cummings. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Why not become a Patreon and enjoy access to our Discord server where we share news, chat, and have some fun. If you become a patron, you can also make video suggestions on topics that are important to you. Check it out via the link in the description.